everyone will talk about how fortunate we were to have a person like him who really cared be in charge of the ORA. And he came out so many times with his staff. Joanne Chieti, she was one of the original staff people. Lisa Johnson, who was one of the younger interns but stayed with it through the 10 years. Tink Cooper was the attorney, and we had more trouble with Tink. She was really much more legalese. But that team, really, we worked very closely with them. When different people were denied redress, which is what I was getting, the topic I was going toward, is that NCRR worked on all the different categories of individuals who are denied reparations, which is really thousands and thousands of people. And I feel we were the first group to react, to respond, to argue with the ORA over who should be included and who should not. They were such, I believe, honest people that they really listened to us. They really tried, and they would come to a roadblock with the legal team, their attorneys, this bank of high-paid attorneys over at Department of Justice, who said, no, we can't do that, we've got to follow the law. And so one of the main arguments during the 90s was the spirit of the law, that it should have an expansive interpretation, that it should not be limited to the words, because the Civil Liberties Act of 1988 was pretty limited. We clawed to get that done, and just it was quite a struggle. And so we're really proud that it was even passed. But it omitted all of the people who had died. All the older Issei were excluded. Certainly there was no mention of Japanese Latin Americans. They were actually, they were excluded. And I'm sure the politicians felt, since so many of them were in another country, Peru, that it wouldn't be, possible. The railroad workers, the mine workers, Glendale, Arizona, the people who live there. Oh, I don't have to go through all the categories. Well, the rest of the categories were the Naval Language School families. These Japanese Americans were in Colorado teaching people in military Japanese. And since they weren't in a camp, they were excluded from reparations. And the children who were born in these naval language schools were excluded. So, there are all kinds of crazy things that occurred. And certainly a big category were the children of so-called voluntary evacuees, the people who left the West Coast before the camps. That was March of '42. So they moved to Colorado, Utah, starved, froze in the winter. People who were professionals, doctors, were now farmers trying to grow potatoes in cellars, and terrible, terrible stories. They were denied redress. And this was not until the 90s. So NCR stayed, with it. We went back and forth to Washington. I think we may have had 8 different trips. And my last trip was probably in 1999, 1998, for the Japanese Latin Americans. And we were very, very vigilant and, making sure that even Campaign for Justice, we were one of the founding organizations for the Japanese Latin Americans, that we were very, very active in it all the way through. Even, Richard Katsuda certainly is still going to those meetings, but, I guess since NCR started in about 1981, and the year 2002, we're still working on redress.